Hello motorsports fans, welcome back to my channel, The Motorsports Addict. Today I am celebrating an amazing and extraordinary moment in Formula 1 as Sir Lewis Hamilton won the 2024 British Grand Prix at Silverstone. It was by no means an easy victory, no. It was a dramatic and hard-fought race win, with the result largely unclear until the very last laps of the race. This win would have meant a lot to Lewis and the entire Mercedes team because of the circumstances and the challenges they've had in the past few years. Let's get into it. But before I begin, I want to appeal for your support for this channel. Please give this video a like, as this tells the YouTube algorithm to push the video to more viewers. It also encourages me to continue creating content. Please also subscribe to my channel and share it with anyone who might enjoy it. Thank you very much for your support. Now let's get back to Silverstone. The weekend started very well for the Mercedes team. They showed good pace in free practice, following recent upgrades to their car, which has shown a lot of improvements in the last few races. It was evident that they could have a strong race weekend, barring any mishaps or unforeseen events. Qualifying went very well for the Silver Arrows, as they locked out the front row of the grid. Qualifying was quite eventful, giving us a preview of the drama that was likely to unfold during the race. As qualifying wound down, Lewis was on provisional pole with his very last lap and seemed to have completed a fairy tale return in front of the home fans. But this was not to be. Hamilton was on pole for just a few seconds before it was cruelly snatched from him by teammate George Russell at the very last second on the very last lap of qualifying. How very Hollywood. With Russell, Hamilton and McLaren's Lando Norris in first, second and third positions, the starting grid had 3 British drivers in the top 3 starting places for the first time in decades. It was definitely a special weekend for British drivers and race fans. Starting the race in second place on the grid, Hamilton was positioned right alongside his Mercedes teammate George Russell. As the lights went out, all the drivers made a clean getaway and the race was on. From the outset, George got the better start and stayed in the lead, leaving Lewis in second place. The McLarens of Norris and Oscar Piastri were close behind, but Max Verstappen managed to sneak in between them to snatch third position from Norris, leaving Piastri in 5th place. However, Max clearly didn't have the race pace to overhaul the Mercedes drivers, and he was only able to stay in 3rd position as the Silver Arrows steamed away from him. Even this 3rd position was not very tenable, as he was soon passed by both McLarens as the weather began to change. As the race progressed, the notorious British weather came into play. The rain began to fall, posing a significant challenge for all the drivers. The McLarens were clearly fast in wet conditions, and Hamilton, the Rainmeister, passed his teammate to take the lead, but he could not stay ahead of the McLarens. Norris and Piastri soon overtook both Mercedes for the lead, as all the drivers tiptoed around the circuit in the changing conditions. Judging the right time to pit for wet weather or intermediate tyres was crucial and added an unpredictable element to the race. It was a time for strategy and caution and not outright speed. This didn't quite work out for Ferrari's Charles Leclerc, who pitted too early for Inters and ruined his race in the process. One of the crucial moments was during the pit stops. McLaren misjudged their strategy for Oscar Piastri. Rather than stacking their cars, they asked him to do an extra lap while Norris pitted. This unfortunately cost Piastri valuable positions. In contrast, Mercedes executed their strategy flawlessly, stacking their drivers in the pit lane and keeping both Russell and Lewis in the hunt for race victory. Unfortunately, tragedy struck for George Russell as he was forced to retire from the race due to technical issues with his car. He lost water pressure, and the team was concerned that the engine would blow up, and so they forced him to retire the car. This unfortunate event left Lewis as the sole Mercedes contender, but it was also a source of worry because his car could also be vulnerable to the same issue that took Russell out of the race. As the race continued, the weather again played a role. The rain stopped and the track began to dry out. Clearly, the drivers would have to pit again in order to switch back to racing slick tyres. The drivers and teams had to decide on the optimal timing for their second pit stops, and the choice of the right tyre to bolt onto their cars. Lewis emerged from the second set of pit stops in the lead of the race, but it was far from straightforward. Having switched to soft tyres, he was fast out of the box. But will the tyres last until the end of the race? Hamilton came under immediate pressure from hard-charging Lando Norris, who was initially catching up to him at a very fast rate. Just like it had been in recent races, the McLaren seemed to be faster than the Mercedes in cooler conditions. Max Verstappen was also close behind and catching up to the Mercedes-powered pair. Lando had opted for soft tyres, while Piastri chose mediums, and Verstappen went with a hard compound, which proved to be the right tyre choice. It was a race to the checkered flag, with the outcome depending on who had made the right tyre call. Towards the end, Norris began to fade as his tyres wore, allowing Verstappen to overtake him and set his sights on Lewis. The pressure from Verstappen in the final laps was immense, but Lewis held his ground, showcasing his unparalleled skill and experience. With 3 laps to go, Max clearly had the faster car, and it was unclear if Hamilton's tyres would maintain their grip until the end. The showdown was imminent, but who would win? Would Max rob Lewis of this much desired victory? Hamilton took the checkered flag about 2 seconds ahead of the closing Verstappen. Hamilton had won his first race in over 900 days of racing. This victory is even sweeter, considering Lewis hasn't won a race since 2021, and he's had very few podium finishes since. The last few years have been very tough, especially after losing the World Championship to Max Verstappen under controversial circumstances in 2021. By contrast, Russell has had all the recent success for Mercedes, having scored the only wins for the team the last 3 years. Russell had even won the last race in Austria just a week before. Lewis signing with Ferrari for the 2025 season, marking the end of his incredibly successful stint with Mercedes. He had been thoroughly beaten by Russell in 2022, and he was also way behind in 2024. To some, it seemed Lewis Hamilton was truly past his prime. The poor results and the decision to leave Mercedes had fans and pundits questioning if his best years were over, especially since he'll be turning 40 next year. Even Lewis has admitted that the recent challenges had affected his confidence. People even began to question if Ferrari had not made a mistake in signing Lewis instead of renewing Carlos Sainz's contract with the team. At the end of the race, Lewis was visibly emotional, which was totally understandable. It had been a long and challenging road back to victory, and the top step of the podium. This win not only added to his incredible tally of victories, but also further cements his place in Formula 1 record books as one of the greatest, if not the greatest F1 driver of all time. This victory was also Hamilton's 9th win at Silverstone, beating the record of 8 wins at a single track, which was jointly held by himself and the great Michael Schumacher. Lewis now holds yet another outright record in his illustrious career. Hamilton now has 104 wins, further solidifying his legacy in the sport. Yet another reminder of Lewis's exceptional talent in Mercedes. To overcome the struggles he and Mercedes had faced since the lost championship in 2021 and the rule changes in 2022, which Mercedes have struggled with. It was a well-deserved win, which was extremely popular with British fans. It was also the most ideal venue for Lewis to end his victory drought, in front of the passionate British fans. I'm sure that if you had to ask Lewis which race he would most like to win for his comeback, I think Silverstone would have been at the very top of his list, because it's his home race and one of his favourite racetracks, as proved by his record here. I hope this win will not be the last of the season for Lewis. I hope he's able to build on this to score more successes in the rest of his Mercedes career. I also hope that he's able to end this season on a high note ahead of his switch to Ferrari for next season. I also hope that his switch to Ferrari is successful so that he can end his career on a high. Finally, it seems the Red Bull of Max Verstappen is no longer invincible, as proved by their struggles in Silverstone. The McLarens and Mercedes have definitely gained some ground, and I hope they can continue to improve. And so we come to the end of another episode of the Motorsports Addict. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Lewis Hamilton's historic win, please don't forget to like and comment on this video. Please also subscribe to my channel for more in-depth analysis and updates on the world of motorsports. Until the next time, please keep the passion for motorsports alive. Thank you for watching and supporting me. Have a great day.